Hello YouTube, this is Stefan here to share with you a story that you can share with your friends, your family, your classes, and your speaking engagements if you are a teacher or a seminar leader. I also want to do a shout out to all my assists in the assist team in the Empower You program. Thank you, Assist, for being amazing, and I'm sorry I can't be there tonight because tonight is my brother's birthday, so I just want to give you a huge shout out, and today's video is going to be for you, dedicated to you, and this story is something to inspire young people as well. Okay, and so thank you for coming, and actually, just for coming, you are actually the first people to see this video. And also the short clip that you saw before this, the little doodle, yes, doodle, they call it video doodles or video scribes, is actually also the first time I'm reviewing this to the internet and to the rest of the world. So great, right? You get to be the first to see it. But today I want to share a story that really excited me and inspired me about what the possibilities in life are, and all of us, we have huge potential and huge possibilities if we only will learn. Right? If only we will be humble, if only we will ask, if only we will study, if only we will research ourselves. Right? And that is the story of Steve Jobs. Okay, I'm going to tell you a story of Steve Jobs that is much less heard of, because some of you might know this. I've done a video on video review about Jobs, the movie, the recent Steve Jobs movie. I heard there was a second one coming out. I hope it's as good or even better. By the way, the movie about Steve Jobs' life, the first movie, Jobs, it does not give a complete picture of everything that you might want to know about Steve Jobs. So what happened to me was after studying that, or after watching the movie and reading up on some of Steve Jobs' speeches and some of his videos, presentations about his products and his vision for Apple, I carry on, I did more research, do up more reading, and I found a exclusive interview that he did for a reporter just before he went back to Apple, which means after he was fired from Apple, and he went to start Pixar and he started this company called Next. Yes, it was between that time and just before he went back to Apple, he did an interview, and this interview was lost. When he was transported from London to US, according to the story, this interview was lost. And in this interview, he actually shared a story about him and Steve Wozniak. Now, Steve Jobs is a visionary. Yes, he looks at things with a different perspective, and he looks at things from. And if he gets excited about something, you want to pay attention. Yes, because what he's excited about is a possibility for the future. So what Steve had as something that he was really excited about was the computer. Right? Way before the computer, when he was younger, he was first introduced to a computer when he was 10 to 11 to 12 years old. And when the first time he saw a computer, it was nothing like what we have today. Nothing like an iPad, nothing like a laptop, a Mac, or even a PC, nothing like that. It was just boxes, and at that time a lot of people's perceptions about computers were all very thwarted, because they learn about computers through television or the movies, and the movies will always portray them as big boxes, with tapes that are rolling all the time, maybe flashing lights, and that and today we know that a computer is not that. In fact, a computer is not even what we see it as, right? It's not a screen, it's not a keyboard, it's accumulation of all of that and more, right? Inside the CPU, there's much more things. So Steve was really fascinated when he saw the first computer, that he could type in something, some commands, and on the other side, results will come out. He was really amazed. And as a young boy, Steve always, he dared to do things. He dared to ask. He dared to figure out things. He dared to study and ask a lot of questions. Well, he was part of this group that was doing some research about frequency counters, and he was looking for some spare parts to build up this thing called a frequency counter. He actually called up HP, Hewlett Packard, and he says, "Hi, this is Steve Jobs." Remember he was 12 years old. "Hi, this is Steve Jobs. You don't know who I am, but I'm trying to build a frequency counter, and I need some spare parts." And Hewlett Packard actually spoke to Steve Jobs for about 20 minutes, and for the 20 minutes, he gave Steve Jobs the part that he needed, and he also offered Steve Jobs a job in that summer. So he actually went to work for Hewlett Packard, and he learned a whole lot of things there. But more importantly, he went to see a computer at that time, the newest computer called the HP 1900, HP 1900. He had a small display screen, a cathode tube display, and it was like a standalone. There were no cables going out to everywhere else. Yes, it was standalone. It was amazing, and he would spend nights, thinking about what he wanted to do, and then writing a program to do what he wanted to do. He was really fascinated. But a few years passed, and he met, Steve Wozniak. Yes, Apple was not started by him himself, even though he's a visionary. He influenced the company to what he is today. He actually started this with Steve Wozniak, which in the movie they showed, in the movie Jobs they showed, right? Steve and Steve, they clicked very quickly because both of them love computers, both of them love programming, and and in fact Steve Wozniak, according to Steve Jobs, was a little bit smarter than him and knew a little bit more in programming than him, right? And one of the first projects that they did together was they read in a magazine that it was possible for someone to make free international calls, and at that time they were like, "Whoa, this is amazing. Is it real? How could that possibly be? How could that even be possible, right? The telephone company will definitely charge you. How can you get it for free?" And so they were really fascinated by this, and both of them at first they thought it was like just some article that might not be true, something like a hoax, but their curiosity got the better of them, so they started searching for the possibility of doing that. They searched for the tones that could communicate with the computers, with the telephone computers, so that they could make the free calls, right? And he searched and many libraries and many places, and they were at this place called the Stanford Linear Accelerate Center. And finally, in the last shelf, there were a lot of books and a lot of journals. In the last shelf, on the last rack, right at the bottom of the rack, they found the AT&T technical journal that showed them everything. At that point in time, Steve was like, "Whoa, oh my goodness, this is real," right? And they were really excited. AT&T is the company that controls most of America's telephone lines at that time, internationally as well. And in that journal, it revealed to them every single thing, including the tones. See, how it works is, when you make a long distance call, you will hear like some sort of dial tone. That's why they call it dial tone. You go doo or doo, right? That's that kind of dial tones. And basically what the tones are is the tones are signals from one computer to another, one AT&T computer to another AT&T computer, telling that between each other that I'm an AT&T computer, and this is a message that I need to send to you, right? So it's actually a tone that determines what is passed along those lines, or what is being allowed or open for communication. And when Steve realized that, they set up the fatal flaw that AT&T had at that time, or created at that time, was when they created the telephone and the telephone lines and the tones, they made it the same. It was the same as the computer. It was the same frequency as our voice. which means if you could replicate those tones in some way, you can make calls for free. Okay, so that's what Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak set out to do. They created, they went to study what the specs are needed, and they created this little box called the blue box. And in the blue box, it was really perfect. It was really exciting. It was digital, and they tried it. You remember the very first call that he made out was to one of the relatives of Steve Wozniak. They dialed the wrong number actually, and they woke someone up in the middle of the night. And of course, that person was not appreciative of that, and they were screaming through the phone and says, "Don't you understand? We are making this call for free, right?" But of course, the person didn't understand, and they got angry. And they did a lot of fun stuff with those calls, right? They actually tried to prank call the Pope, because at the time it was easy to get access to phone numbers. So they called the Pope, and at the Vatican they actually woke up people along the hierarchy, to get to the Pope. There are many people that they go through, and they called the Pope, and the message was passed down, and finally they actually woke the Pope up. But then before that happened, Steve, both of them burst out laughing, and they knew it was a prank call, so they cut it off, so they didn't get to talk to the Pope. But at that point, it was really amazing because Steve said that he learned a very, very big lesson. Okay, and let me read that lesson out to you. He says, there's a very big lesson that I learned at that time. He said, we were young, and what we learned was that we could build something small that could control billions and billions of dollars worth of infrastructure in the world, right? He said, two of us, we didn't know much, but we could build a little thing that could control a giant thing. And that was an amazing lesson for me. And Apple would not have been Apple if not for this little project. So that's the story that I like to share with you. It really inspired me in the sense that it tells me that each one of us, we are full of potential, and we can do amazing things if we just start studying, start researching, and start figuring out what we want to do and how to do it, and going and doing it and creating it. So I hope that is an inspiring story that inspired you as much as it inspired me. Please do share these stories with your friends and your family, and if you are a teacher, share it with your students. If you are a assembly leader, share it with your participants and your audience. So thank you very much for watching this video. Thank you, Assist, for forgiving me for not being there tonight, and do click on the subscribe button if you have not done so. Like this video, share this video, and depending on where you are in the world, good morning, good afternoon, good night. This is Steve. Goodbye.